Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Greg Black from RFS Advice. I have the pleasure of joining me today with Troy Theobald and Colin Bolesky from 4CRB. So welcome, gentlemen.
Oh, great to be here.
Happy to be here again.
I tell you what, I've been looking forward to today's discussion because obviously when we're talking about clients, we're talking about financial planning and all of those sorts of things that obviously the Retirement Living Your Way podcast and radio show, I really wanted to really break it down to the core and really bring it back to the nuts and bolts. And I think the first place we need to have a look at is what actually goes on in a client meeting.
Sure.
Because there's different ways to engage clients. You know, you see seminars, there's a lot of finfluencers, I think it's called, on the social media trying to do those sorts of things. But I just thought it'd be a really good conversation to have today just about what does happen. And Troy, obviously you're in the box seat. You've been doing this for a very, very long period of time. So keen to get your thoughts. And Colin, if you could jump in along the way, that'd be fantastic as well.
This is the fun part for me.
Colin's been dying to ping me for this one for a long time. So, because look, from that perspective, it's daunting.
Yes.
And it's recognising that when a client comes in, they are opening up all their financial laundry to you, and that's daunting and intimidating. So it's recognising from the advisor's viewpoint that's an honour for them privilege for them to come and do that, and you should pay respect to that and allow, because you don't have a right to, in my opinion, because some people go, I saw this person, they go, where are you, what do you got, rah, rah, to me I have no right to ask that.
No.
I think really from our perspective, from a client meeting is initially just calming as to why, what brought you here today.
The getting to know you phase.
Yep, the simple question, because something triggered that thought to pick up a phone call, to send an email inquiry. They might have heard us on the radio. They might have there could be all sorts of issues. There could be a massive event going on in the background. So you need to know why today? Why are they in there? And that can answer so much and help you frame where that meeting goes, because it could be, I've just inherited a wonderful amount of money from, I won Keno, I won Lotto. It could be just this amazing scenario. It does happen. Or it could be, I've actually inherited a large amount, but it's from an inheritance, and it's not it's a life-changing, unhappy scenario. Or it could be, I've handed in the notice at work.
Yes.
And you know what? I'm really excited, or I just got the pink slip today, and have I got enough? So that's got to be the starting point, the why.
So just on that, so we'll take it back a notch if that's okay. So someone picks up the phone, they reach out to RFS Advice, they speak to the lovely Kaylee on front desk.
Yep.
She'll organise the meeting in your diary, for argument's sake.
Yep.
We send out the invite with where to park, all those sorts of things. The client walks into the office.
Yeah.
What's that experience? What happens? Because a lot of people wouldn't know. And
No.
in their mind,
Yeah.
I think that stops a lot of people making that phone call.
And even that you just mentioned, we've broken it down into what makes it daunting. So we make sure they have a car park with their name on them. We send the map out to it because it's daunting. I've got to go to Bundall. I don't go to Bundall very often. Okay, that's daunting. How do we, even before they walk in the door, just relieve a little bit of that stress?
Pressure and tension.
Yeah, so that when they do actually walk in the door, who am I going to meet and what could this be like? Because we all put these ideas to what's going to happen, thinking we can foresee the future, which we can't.
Yes.
So when they come in the door from our perspective, it's really almost like this conversation today. Ours is it's very much a conversational piece of where are we at? Why did we reach out and where would we like to go?
And it's interesting you mentioned there before that it is very much an emotional roller coaster. Some people have got negatives in their lives that have brought them in. Some people have got positives. Some people that's sort of benign. I've just wandered through the door because I think it's time. But you've got to unravel the negative or the positive initially and get them on the page.
Oh, the favourite one is when you turn into a couple and you can see one or the other, like, she made me is the answer. Why are you here today? She made me. Like, okay, this will go well. But we'll get there at least.
She made me.
Or he made me. Either or. I don't want to be here. I'm not interested. That's the classic one. But that can also be a lot of, there's always been one person making the decisions. But in our meeting, I always make sure both in a couple are engaged, because you never know what life throws up. And people, even if they're not interested in the granularity, the engineers, which I'll pick on again, I can sit here and go, I'm just going to run through how we manage money, why we manage money, and we're going to run through the calculations. I'm going to show you the graph, and I'm going to show you how it's calculated. Because, Colin, for you, that's going to give you, I can relax with that.
Yes.
Now, you could have your partner sitting next to you go, I don't care about any of that. How much can I spend? And what's the number we need to keep it to? Because my goal has been keeping it to that. So fine, we're going to deal with that as well. But it's just making sure that we're identifying what's important to both people in the room. We could be talking to a committee. Like we help on some of the local committees around here and not-for-profits. Now, they're interesting because you've got different opinions and different things, and for them it's identifying what are they trying to achieve. And then once we identify that, that's the starting point. So for that client walking in the door, what is it we're trying to achieve?
Yes.
And they don't always know the answer, and that's okay.
And it's probably worth pointing out, it's not always just a meeting with just you either, is it?
No, so
that's
so in our office we always have what's called a second chair, or we have two fully qualified advisors sitting with every client meeting, because it's a bit like this conversation here. I'll say something, I'm watching one of the two of you going, I'm going to ping him on this, because that's how you get the robustness.
You do.
Because it could be someone saying there's all sorts of intricacies of super rules and contributions, and you're engaged in trying to solve this jigsaw puzzle for them, and you can easily come up with a solution yourself that may not take into account everything. So having that second chair to slow down might go, this, if we were going to sell the house, there's this other rule in downsize so we can get more into super. Oh, what a great idea.
Yes.
So that, from our perspective, that's our methodology, is almost just, making sure every meeting is giving that due consideration and that A game to options. And once you've solved most of the problems for clients, that as things go along now, some of the review meetings now, I might be in for part of them, some of them, because I know that Josh and Brooke and my team have sat next to me for 7 or 10 years, and they'll look at me, almost know where I'm going to go with this and the question set. And they've got their own version of getting to that as well. But from our perspective, it's knowing that we can have that consistent outcome, and we're asking we should be asking the questions, not lecturing.
And
sure.
Sorry, Colin. And just on that, what's typically your first question that a client sits down?
Yep.
What's the first question that comes out of Troy's mouth?
Yeah, so what's top of mind is, I do like that,
Yep.
or what brought you here today. Either of those generally will give a response that's, you can tell from that. It's a positive, I'm happy.
Yes.
I'm nervous, or this is a negative, and have I got enough? And
Yes.
normally you can tell by the tone, and that, from our perspective, it's setting the framing about that. Okay, well, if it's a positive, did we have something, exciting happening in the background? And generally, if you just sit back then and ask that question, it's like pulling the string. They want to tell a story.
Sure.
Because they've probably already gone over this conversation in their mind many times before they've walked in the door. I didn't know they were ready to tell us all that.
Yes.
I'm the world's biggest oversharer. Greg's laughing because he's met me. Because that's me. I just like to put that out there in the world, and hopefully the world gives back.
So as Greg asked, what's your first question? What's usually their first question?
You can tell the ones worried about fee. What's the fees? Awesome. Great question. I'm absolutely going to answer that before you leave the room. But that's actually not the most important answer, and I don't know what it is because I don't know what we're actually doing for you yet.
Yes, that's right.
I don't even know if we can help you.
Yes.
So it's identifying that's really important to them. Absolutely will be addressed before you walk out the door. But I don't want someone anchored on this, Bill's 6,000, someone's 7,000. Well, Bill's going to see someone once every year walk in and go, where's your super balance? Looks great, send you out the door. Whereas we might be doing everything in regards to helping your budget and your cash flow, your estate planning, making sure everything's on track. We've got it individually balanced. We're reweighting portfolios each quarter. We're topping up your cash account. We're making sure you've got cash buffers in place. When markets are running strongly, we'll get you in and reduce risk. When markets are have dropped, is that the time we take on a little bit more risk. They're two totally different services.
Yes.
That if you just an answer, they can't make an informed choice because they don't know.
That's right. And it's a very complex equation. And again, it isn't one size fits all, is it? And everybody's got a very different scenario as they walk through the door. I remember a very specific topic we talked about with people who own their own businesses, and the typical thinking is, I'm going to sell the business and retire. Well, there are other options to that. And again, you might not want to take that other option, but exploring the option itself might lead you in a completely different way of thinking.
Yeah, and that's where I'm getting more excited by the podcast by the minute, because when we do the show, you and I probably had a 45-minute conversation around this that we had to break down into 6-7 minutes on the show. So where Colin's going from, had a long-term client in Toowoomba. Up there, conversation was, business is going well, they're adding money into super. We had a goal they wanted to achieve to get a certain amount of income. They ran well past that. And then it became more that legacy, well, what do we want to do? Well, the daughter's going to come into the business and's working there. Okay, so a year or two passes. And they're getting tired and getting a bit sick of it and all that and going, we'll probably sell. Why are we selling? I don't need the money. Well, okay, maybe, do we need the money or do we need the income? Oh, hadn't thought. Okay, what they actually needed was the income. Oh, well, your daughter's down here running it. Do you think, heaven forbid they won't run it as well as you? Fast forward 4 or 5 years, he knows I could take the mickey out of him and go, her and her husband doing a much better job. Because they're enthusiastic and all the things of that naivety that they brought to it with dad's good and mum's good guidance has delivered an amazing outcome, and that's allowed them to continue to get an income out of that, and that's also allowed that business to continue. And guess what? Their kids and their grandkids are now set up.
Nice.
So without even, we had our show the other day and we didn't even get to the honouring your legacy, so we'll have to do that for another topic. We didn't even get to that conversation because it naturally flowed.
Yes.
They actually built a legacy without even knowing
they had one.
And then once we've had that experience, lovely local Burley family down here we've helped as well, and same thing. They, the son working in the business, they're really lovely people, and, they were probably doing better than they ever thought because they hadn't reached out because they were scared of advice and advisors and fees and all those things. We got through that. And then same thing, I want to retire. And I'm like, okay, but your son's in the business, and what's your daughter doing? Well, she does this. Okay, so she could be brought into the business, which later happened. And it's like, okay, so you're, all of a sudden you mind the kids, grandkids. It's like, okay, so why are we selling the business? And I could use this other example of, hey, I've seen this work. It doesn't matter the industry. Oh, well, it work in our industry. Money doesn't care.
No.
Doesn't care what you do for a job, doesn't care what the business is. So from that perspective, it was really a case of, for them, just a change in thinking because, they can't afford it. We didn't ask them to pay for it. What I need I could get $1 million or 1 point, doesn't matter what the number is. Why don't they just pay you $100,000 a year for the next 15 years? Oh, that'd fund my whole retirement. Yeah, it would.
Nice.
And it was just that.
Great little outcome.
Yeah.
Little bit of thinking, hadn't thought about it before, different option, walk away with it, let's explore that opportunity, and lo and behold, we've now got an asset for the entire family, haven't we?
Absolutely, and that's passing that legacy. And Greg, you've run dealer groups and planning groups and seen all these presentations on stage. I've never seen one that talks about that.
Not at all. Definitely not. But I'm keen to bring it back to this client experience,
I was
if
just
that's
about
okay.
to say.
Because otherwise, I know we've got lots of stories in your head that there's a lot of great work that's done.
The stories are great. And again, I suppose that example there is you don't know what you don't know.
Spot on.
No.
And we talk about that quite often. Coming back to it, so we've got past their first question.
Yep.
You've asked your first question. Where do we roll through from here?
So from there, it's going to come to, some people will just literally lay everything out. Here's where I'm at. Here's what I've got. Here's what I'd love to get to. And that conversation, for those people that have done their homework and their prep work, that says to me, they'd really like me to just, can you get to the nuts? Am I okay? Because I've you know what?
I'm worried.
I'm worried. I've done my homework and I'm waiting to see am I getting an A, B, or C on this. And normally we can very quickly
That's a great analogy.
go if they've told us, we do need to know what income. So that's fun. If you're going to walk in our door and you've heard this, please give that some thought, because that's going to be probably question number 2. What income do we need in your household? And it's not a great question. It's just what we're doing.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like,
the
mower turns up. What would you like to do? Oh, mate, I reckon you can mow the lawn.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably a bit cheeky but it just staggers me how many people haven't given that any thought. And so the idea of a podcast, get some education. So if you're working with an advisor, awesome. You can be able to walk in and go, I reckon we need this.
Yep.
Great starting point. Because for those people that walk in with their little mud map, I can sit there and go, wow, we've got $2 million in assets and you've told me you want $60,000 a year. My conversation is going to be, I think you need to aim for 100. What? Totally different meeting and conversation. You need to look more toys, more travel, more things you want to go and do, because that realistically is absolutely in your wheelhouse.
Yes.
So that's really from that style of answer. The second style of answer is where people haven't given it much thought. So that's more, I'm going to be asking questions to extract it. Yep, you got rental properties. Uh-huh. Okay. How many of those do we have? 2. And where would you might laugh, but this happens a lot. Where would they be? Why is that? I went, well, I'm not offering to buy them. I just need to know how much they are, how much rent is coming in, how much expenditure is going out, what's left over to eat. That's all we're trying to find out. Oh, okay. They might have had a bad experience with an advisor who's tried to sell all your property because they're thinking, he just wants me to sell them and get their hands on the money. I just want to find out the cash flow.
Yes.
Is that working? We've had lots of people off the radio come in that have had several properties. They're asset rich and cash poor. So that would be what we do see the most, because that was their method of accumulating wealth. It worked really well.
Yep.
And that property they bought for $500,000 is now worth $1 million.
Sure.
Awesome. But if I've got 3 of those, I've got $3 million. You're in a fantastic situation, and I can picture this lovely couple off the radio. But the cash flow wasn't there, because by the time they pay the rent and the body corp and the rates and all of this stuff, they're living off 50, 60 grand a year off $3 million. And you go, that's sort of 2%. And that's about where, if you've had a rental property for a reasonable period of time and it grew, that's about where it sits.
Sure.
And I went, no, that number looks right to me. So it comes down to, as we spoke on one of the other podcasts, is what's important. Yes, they're going to grow. Yep, they might grow over time. Wonderful. But have you got the income to fund the lifestyle?
Do you need them to grow? Or do you need them to be something else now?
Yeah. So I would normally start by working with those in that situation and going, can you tell me the one you think will grow the least in the future? Or the one who's got the worst tenants and the biggest problems and the biggest outflow? Most of them can tell you that answer pretty quickly.
Sure.
The couple will look at each other. Yeah, that, because I normally draw on the little white border on the screen. Yeah, that one, it's, the tenant's always been a pain. That one's always had trouble. I'm sick of fixing it. It's like, okay, why do we pick on that one? Because A, it gets rid of stress, and B, that frees up capital.
Sure.
And it's the capital freeing up that allows you to do other things. It's not about selling property. It's not about getting more into super or more investments. It's like where you are today, is that getting you the outcome you want, which is that the income that you've got?
The income. And what you're saying is turning that rental income into something completely different, because obviously, you've got expenses with that as well. So, it is about looking at it in a different light.
It is. It's the $1 million house. You can't sell the toilet and the second bedroom to get some cash, but if you've got $1 million investments, you can absolutely draw 50 or 100,000 if you need it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great little analogy.
Okay, look, if I can bring it back. Yeah. Sorry to keep doing this, because I know what we're dealing with here. So obviously that first meeting is fundamental, okay, because you're obviously getting a clear understanding of the client. They're getting a feel about how you think, and Josh and Brooke and the team. How long does that first meeting go? How long does it take for that sort of...
Look, it's normally around an hour, because all of that discussion we just had is just getting the data, extracting that information out of people, and then the next step is what's important. So we've got the nuts and bolts, which was the house, the unit, the money. But then we've got to get to what's important, as in what do they want to do? What do they want to achieve? All right, what does 60,000 a year, 100,000 a year do for you? Oh, that allows me to help fund the tertiary education of the grandkids. Okay, so we're getting a bit of a list of what's really important to them.
Yes.
So that's sort of the stepping stone from get the information.
Yep.
Are we getting to what's important to them? Then we want to walk through and give them a little bit of, is it achievable?
Yes.
Are these dreams and aspirations achievable based on where we are today? And we've got to either have we call them having real conversations or hard conversations, yes, the nice ones, because sometimes, you've got to pull back some of those expectations, and others you can increase their expectations.
Yes. Because I think the real exciting part of the whole process, and I've been fortunate to see external businesses and especially the way that Troy and the team have built the RFS process, is just the clarity that you're able to provide by the end of that first meeting, and really the roadmap. And if you could, I don't know whether you can spend time just talking about how you break up that roadmap into different time frames.
Yeah,
so I think that's really relevant, and then that feeds into ultimately where the client really wants to go, and you get to the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah,
so can you jump on that? If that's
no,
okay?
Yep, that's perfect. So ultimately, we've got the information, we've worked out the assets, we've worked out what they might like to achieve, and throughout they've probably said some little bits here and there of things they'd really like to achieve. They're the little nuggets in there of I want to go and see a certain race. I want to go and experience an event. I want to go and smell the roses at whatever garden. It could be anyone's scenario. Then we can put a monetary value on that, and then we can put a time frame. So the now, we try to get it to what's important now. So now is, I want to know, can I retire? I want to know, do I have enough money? I want to know, am I in the right shape, or do I have to work for 6 months, 12 months, or do I have to, pull back expectations? Medium term is, all right, over the next few years, early years in retirement, I would like to do X, Y, and Z. I would like to, I just want to put the van off and go away for a month. I've never had a month off. Awesome. Let's put that in there as a medium-term goal. So now we're goal setting. Now we're talking about what's important, but more importantly, we're giving it tangibility, and we're giving it a time frame.
Yep.
And then the further down the track is the I want to get to, the 1 days I'd like to do, nice to do, and those little ones pop from the further down the track into medium and now over time.
Nice. We
don't have to solve them today, but they're little things bubbling in the background that we might like to do. So, once we can frame that up, to us, that's what a real financial plan is, not a statement of advice with 80 pages that talk about products and carrots and all the rest of the garbage. If people want to do that, that's wonderful. That's not what we do. We want to get to that one-page snapshot that really articulates when they walk in the door, and we put it up on the screen and we can go, is this what we spoke about, and is this what you'd like us to help you achieve?
Yep.
And then, how would you like to do that? As in, some people, do you want to do that? Would you like us to help you with that?
Yep.
Now, I don't have a will. Okay, do you have a lawyer, or do you need us to find you a lawyer? I want to go around Australia and I need a caravan. Okay, do you have someone to go to, or can I ring 3 clients who have bought caravans and will talk to me for 25 minutes about the axles and the whatever else and go, hey mate, who would you recommend? Because that's what you want as a recommendation.
Nice.
They're all the little bits and pieces that, is the live part of the conversation that really happen.
But it's also exciting or interesting when you see clients jumping up at the PowerPoint slide.
Absolutely.
At the screen. They're that vested because all of a sudden we've captured exactly what they're all about. Yes. And by having the 2 advisors in the meeting, I think that allows just the understanding and the listening, and we can really capture exactly what's at the core. So when clients come in and it's up on the screen, it's not uncommon for clients to jump up and start pointing about, this one here.
And they're engaged.
Absolutely, which to me means that we're nailing where we need to be.
Yes.
We understand what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's the real power of what we can bring.
And we can move those around.
Yes.
Spot on.
We can adjust them. They're not fixed.
No.
Look, I love the little bits that you put in there, the nuggets. One day I'd like to. And they're the type of ones that you think in your head that, I don't know whether I can afford it, but I'd really like to at some point. And you know what? in having these conversations, you can define whether they're a reality or not, and actually put them a real time frame involved on that target, and go. It's like having a holiday a year. I'm going to work this year. We're going to have a holiday with the family. If you've got something to work towards and actually focus on, it's absolutely brilliant and engaging. Instead of, I don't know whether I can.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's giving it that tangibility of putting it in writing. You're more likely to do it.
Yes.
And the reality is, from a client coming in that's fearful, a bit unsure, not certain about what the future looks like, not sure about the whole process,
yes,
to actually come in, sit down with Troy and the team, we're only talking two meetings, you know what I mean? Like from a time frame point of view.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like this is not a long drawn out process.
No.
You know, this is not 6 months of time invested.
And you know what, it's funny, I'm in my 50s and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, this is a third of my life. I want this to be a solid plan. I might need to be really involved. This is going to be a long process, 2 or 3 meetings.
Yeah. Correct.
Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah. Things flow pretty quickly once once the cork comes out.
That's right. That's right. And to me, if I'm thinking to myself, I've got 3 months in Europe and I've got this and I've got that and I've got everything else, and maybe I've had to compromise on a couple of things, but the majority of the things that I want to achieve are in the bag, so to say. I'm just sitting there going, okay, Troy, now how do we achieve it?
Correct.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where, we've got the dream board, which you often talk about in RFS, where, clients are actually sending photos of things they've achieved, milestones and the like. The way the process works, we become so engaged with what they're trying to achieve. We understand what they're trying to achieve. So when the client does achieve it, they want to celebrate that with us and we want to celebrate it with them. And I think that's really underpins who we are as a business.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're their biggest cheer squad. We are their biggest fan. We want to be the first person they call, really no matter what when it comes to financial. And even sometimes it goes broader than that. Like you've bought houses for people.
Yeah.
You've helped people buy cars. It's more than just the nuts and bolts that most people think we do.
Yes, that's right. And look, I love the sentiment, because at 4CRB we're a family, and I often find that, you talk to Adam Hall, who does What's Your Car Worth, and he will go the extra mile and drive you here and drive you there and buy a car.
Yes.
You guys are exactly the
Absolutely.
same. Where it is, we want to celebrate that we got you there, or that you're enjoying that holiday that you worked so hard for and made a few compromises along the way to actually get to, and you got to see it realised.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And part of when Greg came on board, that was the passion project he's really run with, was, we've always called it the RFS family, with clients and everything in regards to that, but then it's extending and welcoming the clients more into that. So now we have the photos of the month and everything. And just the change in narrative, just seeing like we had photos in today from, clients just taking their merch. Like who takes their advisor's merch to the other side of the world to take photos?
But
That's fantastic.
But who has photo albums just for RFS, so that when they're on holidays they save their photos into their RFS photo album so that they can share it with us when they come back?
Yeah,
that's amazing. That is
it's unheard of.
Amazing.
It's unheard of, which is fantastic.
And that's where does the rubber hits the road of it's. Are we hopefully delivering what people want?
Yeah.
So the reality is it's quite an easy process. Would that be fair to say? Like it's not confronting.
You want to make it. My wife's always said to me, you want to make it non-intimidating.
Yes.
So from a perspective of, you've got to remember they're airing all their good expenditure, their bad expenditure, their experiences over many years, and going, here's where I'm at.
Yes.
So you need to.
Look,
you need to make that there's no easy way, but you can make it as painless as possible. There is no judgment. We always say there's no judgment here. We're just here to help where you're at, where you'd like to get to. Yeah. Can we help you on that journey?
And stimulate some thinking.
Yeah.
And that's why we love what we do with 4CRB. Just, the engagement, the community involvement, it just ticks all of the boxes.
It does.
And I guess our aim is we just want to talk to those people looking for advice, even if they're not sure. The whole idea of today's discussion was really just to really break it down and go, well, it's not a difficult process. There will be a few questions, but it's just having a conversation. And it's having a conversation with someone that gets it,
Yes.
someone that's seen it,
Yes.
because I think this is where experience comes in. There's obviously the technical know-how, that's a given, but it's actually the understanding of what is important to clients.
Yes.
And they've seen different people go down different paths and bringing that together. So that's ultimately what I guess today's conversation was really about.
And it's having something that resonates with you, because not everyone's going to do it the same way. So that the most common thing you've asked, what do people say at the end of it? It wasn't the experience I thought, or it was totally different than what I thought was going to happen.
Sure.
That was way less intrusive or intimidating than I thought it was going to be, or I thought it was just going to be boring about numbers.
Correct. You think I'm going to get my tax done.
Correct. Yeah.
Right, here we go. How much am I getting back now?
I like the optimism of getting back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, often they're taking it from you. But anyway, look, I'm going to pose this question, and we can... those people who come through the door, and I can understand that if you're giving them good news, hey, I was hoping I'd be able to achieve this. No, you can achieve much, much more. There will be some people that you get the difficult conversation with, the people who you say, look, you're either going to have to work another 12 months or another 24 months perhaps, or you're going to have to, instead of buy that Ferrari, rent a Ferrari for a weekend. Yeah. How does that go, Troy?
So from our perspective, we call those the real conversations than the nice ones. So we had a marketing lady come in and she said, Troy, just stick on your website, we tell it how it is.
Yep.
And we went, yep, that's us. So, because there's no point sitting here setting unrealistic goals and telling people and promising things that they simply can't do and you can't deliver on.
You're just going to deliver disappointment, aren't you?
Absolutely. So we would rather have that up front and go, realistically, based on the amount of assets you have, it's part age pension, you could draw X amount off. Oh, well, someone else said they could get one. That's, in our world, that's the maths.
Yes.
That's the answer. The answer's the answer on what it should be, unfortunately, whether people love the answer or hate the answer.
There's no magic wand.
No, there is no. And then is, to your point, though, then do people ask, well, what do I need to do to achieve that? And lots of people are happy to do the work and lots aren't happy to do the work. And that might be, do you know what? What if we worked part-time? You know what? I had a stressful job. I'm sick of that. Yeah, you don't quite have enough. What if for the next 2 years you could generate 40 grand a year, so you're just not drawing on your super yet? Oh, work in a cafe, work in a shop, work somewhere where you're just getting some stimulus.
Yes.
To get out there. You don't need to earn the 120 grand a year and burn yourself out because you've already got a good nest egg in your super. We just don't want to draw on it yet. So there's methods of doing that to, some clients, when Airbnb first came out, that was a game changer. I was like, oh, wow, people doing Airbnb. We've got people driving Ubers.
Yes.
They clock in, they earn a little bit here and there, and that for them is enough to just kick everything along and make everything work. So people find a way.
And there are plenty of little suggestions just like that, and potentially you can go, oh, right, okay. I remember a friend of mine who was a Sparky and retired and just decided he was going to go fishing Bribie Island. The year he was back, came back and I said, Eric, what are you doing? And he said, mate, when you've fished everything, you've camped everything, and the paper boy's 5 minutes late delivering the paper and you're angry for the rest of the day, I needed to do something. And he decided to become a barista and just do a bit of coffee. He said, I'm a people person. I just do a couple of days a week, and that's enough for me.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of someone finding a niche and exploring it.
Yes.
The one that I would caution people against, and that is, and I'll pick on teachers now because there's none of them around in the room. So and if someone comes in, I would tell them, there's the door, please leave, because I'm not going to watch this. I've got my $1 million, payout from superannuation, and, I've always wanted to run a cafe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy this cafe and I'm going to change everything in the first 5 minutes. So we change the beans, we change the coffee, we change the specials.
Yeah.
What do we think happens to that really good cafe?
Yeah. Again, it's the same idiom. I just bought the Vegemite factory, but I don't like Vegemite. I'm going to turn it into a honey factory.
Yeah. And the answer is it's not about you. And that's what they forget, because their dream was to do it their way.
Yes.
Which is fine. But, your life savings when you're about to retire. And I'd seen that a number of times, and if someone wants that, I will literally say, I'm not for you. I'm going to give them that story. Mine will work out. It might not. I simply cannot go on that journey with them because I've seen that where they just, Troy, I had to do this. I'm like, mate, you didn't have to do that. It's a risk you don't need to take.
Yes.
And I have met one person who walked in the door, and you know what she did?
No.
She would sell the same coffee shops about every 3 years. She said, Troy, I buy them back. When they change everything, she said, I tell them, here's the specials, here's the locals, here's what they like. Yep. Don't mess with the formula. And she said, I'll buy one that's not doing well. It's not rocket science. You know, people want their lasagna and chips. They want the basics. She said, I just put the basics at a good price, gets people in, it's built up. Someone comes in, chasing their dream, I sell it to them, off I go. And invariably, you know, if I do that 10 times, 4 of them will call me at some point and go, do you want to buy it back for basically half of what I paid you?
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Because, and she'll go in and go, I know what's going to happen here. Oh, we changed this. We changed that because they forgot who it's about. It's about
the client,
the customer, the consumer.
Yes.
That's the bit we try to keep that focus on over time. That's their outcome. It's not our outcome. I can sit there and do nerdy spreadsheets. I don't need the person sitting in front of me to solve the puzzle of maths.
And he does like doing nerdy spreadsheets.
I do like a good spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of spreadsheets myself. I call them the sexy spreadsheets.
Yeah, okay. My coffee mug does say, I love spreadsheets. My daughters don't think that's overly cool, but that's what it does say.
No.
But it's identifying, you know, that short, medium, long-term goal is theirs. It's not mine. I'm not setting it. They're the ones setting that and the time frame and what's important.
But the framework's fantastic.
The framing we control. We control the framing of the conversation. That's our job. We are still, and that's the other scenario we do say that to people is we are meant to be the expert in the room. We're meant to be the professional, and we should deliver on that.
And you should call a spade, and that's the point. The point being is that if we don't think it's great advice, we're going to tell you. And if you don't like it, well, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. You'd rather be told up front, not a good idea, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, there's no point, as I said to someone, there's no point having a dog and barking as well, and there's also no point paying for advice and ignoring it. And we have had clients where we've separated from who had significant amounts who just didn't want to listen. And you do get to that point of, this isn't working for you don't, there's no point paying for advice, paying all the time, totally ignoring it and running and doing the opposite. That doesn't work for anyone.
We're getting to the end of our time. Troy, let's, in summary or towards the end of this conversation, how do you finish up a client meeting?
So the finish of the client meeting is there's going to be a million things we've discussed. So they're going to have information overload. It's a lot to take in and everything. So from our perspective, we've taken good notes, and we will say to them, now what we want to turn around is within 24 hours is a summary for you of all of these things we went over today. So they don't have to go home, did I capture that? And we're going to have what were those short-term things we needed to address? What were the medium-term things we needed to address? What were the long-term scenario we need to address? We want to summarise where are they today, what's important to them, and is that realistic? And we want to have a simple couple of page summary of that, and if they're a bit more detailed, some calculations just to show them, we could help you do that. And from that, the power's in their hands to choose, do they wish to move forward with a second meeting? And that's where we get the granular of getting to the breaking it down into the statement of advice and the detail and the how do we manage money and why we manage money and everything. So we want to deal with the broader brush to start with. And when we've got that, we want to make sure that by the time they leave that meeting, they know where they're at, where they're going to get to, what would it cost.
Yes.
We want to make sure they leave. I've gone to all these seminars, and Greg would have, we'll think about this, and we'll come up with, If I walk out the door, I want to know what it costs.
Absolutely.
If I go to a real estate agent and ask how much they want for their house, what's it worth to you? Oh, it does my head in.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, you're selling the house, mate. You just tell me what they want for it, and I'll tell you what
You're
I'm
the
happy to pay.
expert. You do this day in, day out. You should have an idea.
So that I want to make sure people leave with that. So if there's experts out there who believe that's how advice should be, well, I'm going to disagree with you because I deal with humans that just want answers.
Yep.
So I want them to know what would I need to do to move forward to make a decision, and do I see value? And that's really what. And look, if they go home and they got some really good short, medium, long-term goals, and they've framed it, and they decide and head off on their way and do that, wonderful. We've helped someone out.
Nice.
Good day.
Good day.
Yep.
Great day.
Perfect. So then it's just take it home. They will be mulling over the conversation, I would imagine, and just taking their time to digest it. Is there follow-up phone calls? I just want to clarify a point.
Yep.
I just would like to have a bit more of an understanding of this, or does that come in the second meeting?
No, for the engineers that want the answers. Got one in there.
Yes, that's
One
me.
of the column was coming
That's
from.
me.
So generally what I say to people is when you get home, if you think of more questions,
Yes.
jot them down, put them in an email, send them to us.
Okay.
We'll answer them for you. Or jot them down, put them in a format that you're happy to, and say, I just want to come back and have another chat to clarify a few things. That's not a problem at all. We're very low. We couldn't be any more low.
Seriously, no pressure. It's just,
Yeah, and someone might come back in, have another chat. Now, I know I'm not going to solve their whole financial situation and give them all the detail in that second meeting, because that is disrespectful to our other clients that are paying for that service.
Sure.
So no, you're not going to get service for free.
Sure.
But the respectful questions about concerns and thoughts and fears and all those things, absolutely, that's part of the process. And, we had a couple in the other day, they were in 14 months ago, got to where they wanted to do, they'd headed off, bought a commercial property, came back, got a different situation now, and they're like, right, so we're ready to get back to that we spoke about. Now, we've got all those notes saved, so someone walks out the door, we do voice notes, and we go to all these industry things about all this. You get your Apple phone out, you press record, you rabbit on for about 7.5 minutes of replaying the conversation and the meeting in there. And what we do is I'll do that, Josh or Brooke and my team will do that. We save all those down, and we use all of that plus our little scribbles to come up with that summary.
Yes.
So we've captured it.
Perfect.
Because they're sitting there taking it all in.
Yes.
We should be giving it that tangible scenario. So, yeah.
fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Troy. And Colin, that was...
Great little conversation.
I enjoyed that because I think hopefully that's just taken a little bit of the uncertainty out of the whole process. I'm privileged. I get to see it in action.
I love it. But it poses for me. I sit there and go, right, well, I've got the next topic we've got to do is this, and the next topic we've got to do is this.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, if you look at that, it's just the initial meeting. So I'm sitting there going, how would I talk about initial meeting?
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, oh, there's so many more things we could have.
You could have gone down so many different tangents then. But no, look, I think it's a great process. It's something that we take very serious. And even Troy said the client engagement, that is the most important thing to us, because if we can get that right, we get to the core of what it's all about. So I just encourage anyone that wants to have a chat, reach out, RFS Advice, website, on the phone. Love to have a chat.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.